So good morning and welcome to this risual and ICS Partnership webcast. Just a few notes on webcast guidance before we start. We do have the Skype for Business window available for questions and messages. Any questions you think of, write them in the window and we'll answer them as we go along. We will also be muting all phones, because the webcast is being recorded. So we'll, as I said, we'll pick up the questions via IM instead. At the end of today's webcast, the recording will be distributed out to everybody, so that you can re-watch this webcast at your leisure. By way of an agenda then, we'll go through some brief introductions from who's presenting today. We'll then hand over to my colleague at ICS to talk through what Flex is and what are the key benefits of Flex. Once we've talked through some of the features of Flex, we'll then show you a demonstration. And if there are any questions following demonstrations, then we'll pick those up at the end. So, my name is Mike Owen. I'm the Business Productivity Lead at Risual. And Risual have been running a number of standard engagements around SharePoint for a while now, with things such as Intranet Evolution engagement for a customized intranet experience, or the Intranet Accelerator for a basic packaged intranet, as well as a collaborative workforce engagement to help organizations determine the type of team or collaboration sites that they want to work with. Now, whilst the technology provides its own challenges from time to time, the biggest challenge that we find is ensuring that those really long-running projects don't actually lose momentum. We need to ensure also that they're successfully adopted, because the changes in working practice are typically the most difficult things to bring about within an organization. So we don't really want to lose the momentum of key stakeholders during the life of a project. So we looked at the marketplace to see how maybe a partnership arrangement could assist us and our customers in overcoming some of these challenges. So today we're announcing our partnership between Risual and ICS around the SharePoint product Flex Automation. And we have Andrew Smith from ICS to introduce us to who ICS are and what Flex can bring to your organization. So I will hand over to Andrew at this point to take us through Flex.
Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Smith. I'm the Solution Director, as Michael said, and I'm really excited to be working with Risual and to help our mutual customers benefit from our combined capabilities. So I'm just going to take you through some positioning slides that talk about the Flex product that we're then going to demonstrate, and then we'll come back at the end for any general questions. But if you have questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to ask. So the partnership with Risual, as Michael said, is being announced this month. We, like Risual, are a Microsoft Gold partner, but we've really focused specifically on SharePoint over the last 10 to 15 years. Primarily now with our customers, that's Office 365, which is the direction of travel from Microsoft, but we also do support customers who have SharePoint on-premise, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. Our experience around SharePoint, like Risual's, is deep and long, and that is one of the reasons why we've created a product. I just also wanted to highlight something that Tony at WaterAid mentioned, who's one of our customers for Flex. And I think to Michael's point about the longevity of projects, this quote was appropriate because I think the experience from Tony and from other customers who have purchased Flex is that it is about making quick progress on getting all of the users in your organizations using the Office 365 software, and in particular SharePoint, Yammer, and OneDrive, as quickly as possible, for two reasons. One, we want to drive user adoption, and we want people to get use out of the tools from Microsoft, and at a more sort of holistic level from an organizational point of view, for your organization to get value out of those Microsoft licenses. The predominant approach for customers who go with Office 365 is to roll out email first and then to look at all the other workloads. So what we're about is really to make sure that SharePoint, OneDrive, and Yammer are deployed quickly and effectively into your organization. So, so the first question to answer here is, what is Flex? So Flex is, in effect, three capabilities. It's a best-of-breed intranet in a box. The market is now growing in this particular area, so Flex has a very comprehensive, fully featured intranet, and I'll demonstrate that to you in a little while. We have next-generation collaboration. So at the heart of Flex, we have automation. We have automation technology, as the slide says, and that means we can then deliver very comprehensive and very rich collaboration solutions using not just SharePoint, OneDrive, and Yammer, but all of the features in Office 365, and potentially in integrating other line of business applications, and I'll talk a bit about that later, which then allows us to deliver end user self-service. So the idea here is that end users are able to self-serve around business tasks and processes that they're involved with in your organization, to do that in a way which means we don't have to train them, so that they can then follow our guidance and best practice, so that each time they use it, it is useful to them and it's repeatable. And as the graphic points out, it's really about empowering your team, empowering your employees, and connecting with your staff and your partners. So what makes Flex different is that automation technology. So you can see on the slide here that we have a number of areas on the left-hand side. Those are typically things that customers are talking to us about. Intranets are definitely on everyone's agenda at the moment. We've done a number of intranet refresh projects, and I've met with 2 customers this week who are both going through the process of replacing their current internal communications platform. And they see the intranet as the sort of hosting point for that. But I think most customers now also see the intranet as being the go-to place for all of the information that's pertinent to an organization. So that could be a launch point and a connection point to other tools. We think the intranet should be the single point of truth, so that everything that for a user is available. And you can see that we combine those things with things like extranets and social. You can see that we have the Flex automation software, and I've put in brackets Azure there. Because typically, if our customers are going Office 365 and they're looking for an all-up cloud solution, so the Flex server is hosted on the Azure infrastructure as a service part of Azure, and it runs and executes instructions that enable Flex to create intranets, extranets, collaboration workspaces for your teams, and we can also create and build Yammer groups, or in fact, one of our customers has got Salesforce Chatter integrated into their Office 365 stack. In terms of the form factors in the bottom right-hand corner, Flex is a fully responsive design, so it'll work on all of your smartphones, tablets, and desktops, as long as they're running on a modern browser. And the key benefits of Flex there are really to act as a bridge between your needs in terms of your users, your employees, your staff, getting the most out of your digital assets. Those capabilities on the left-hand side, not just Office 365, but obviously a lot of our customers are integrating other line of business applications. One of our customers, Wokingham Borough Council, are in the process of deploying a complete workforce transformation project. Office 365 is the fundamental platform that is going to run on, but Flex is providing the glue that sticks it all together, so that we can connect not just Office 365 workloads, but we can also integrate their Aggresso HR application so that the users go to SharePoint and Flex for all of the process activities, but in some cases we're taking them out of 365 and into those other applications. So it's really all about reducing the time and the cost of the deployment of SharePoint in particular and other applications to get your user adoption, to almost 100% in year one. It does take us a couple of months to implement Flex. That's why it's only 83%. But the idea is that if we can make it so easy to use that people will can do self-service without training, then we believe we can deliver those sorts of that sort of adoption. And because Flex is an evergreen service in the same way that Office 365 is, we're able to provide you with updates as part of the license agreement so that you can continue to refresh and update and add new features and functionality to your intranet and collaboration solutions, which will obviously keep your users interested and coming back to the portal because it provides them with business value. So we talked a little bit about pre-built assets. The way we can reduce the deployment time and cost is really to turn up on day one with a very rich environment, and I'll show you what day one looks like when I go into the demo, so that you get an idea of what the starting point is. But we have a fully featured intranet. We can obviously do the collaboration and self-service, which I'll show you in a minute. And we also have a digital workplace, which is like a smartphone home equivalent, where I can get access to all of my applications that are hosted in Office 365. To drive user adoption, we really have to address the 70% of people in your organization who are not, who are probably more your ordinary end users. They're not typically motivated or able to, or interested in fact in doing any self-learning or going on YouTube to look at videos as to how to use some software. We believe this audience really is the critical component of getting your systems adopted, and we recognize that it's not possible for you to train them. So we need to have a user experience for them that is so easy that we can avoid that training. We do recognize, though, that there are people who will take that training, like the IT pros and admins, and that for certain people, using SharePoint or using Office 365 is actually part of your job, so you are trained on doing that. But we really need to address the 70% of people in a business, because if we can get them using SharePoint, Yammer and OneDrive, then the entire organization is going to see a slight productivity boost, and consequently there is a benefit of getting them out of file shares and emails, which I think is what most ordinary end users revert back to when it comes to collaborating with their colleagues around documents. They might even use some cloud services which are outside of your control, like Dropbox and Box, just because they're familiar with that experience as a consumer of IT. As a consumer experience, because that's very much a self-service metaphor. If you think about eBay, if you think about Amazon, you're not talking to a person there, you're just following a particular process, and most people are comfortable with doing that now. And if we can empower those end users by giving them a smartphone experience, then we think they can be more successful. So if you take the example of someone who in sales, like some of my colleagues who are on the phone here, who might have to do a sales proposal, the salesperson is unlikely to know which of the apps out of Office 365, and that's the quick launch bar you can see on the left-hand side there, which are the apps they should use there, and which combination of all of the great features of Office 365 will help me get a sales proposal done more quickly. Because without Flex, that user has to, in effect, guess. The reality is that we, from an IT perspective, probably know what those combination of features actually are for doing something like a sales proposal in your particular organization. And if you think of, if sales proposal doesn't really make sense in your organization, if you think of other common collaboration activities that you've got, I'm sure you can think of some. But what we really want to do is get to the point where the user on the right with Flex is able to go to one place that they can search and browse for apps, just like they do on the Apple Store. They can choose an app called Retail Sales Proposal, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. They can start using that app, and that app is stored in their homepage. So that experience is really very like a smartphone. You go to some place to search and find apps. Once you've found what you're looking for, you install it onto your homepage, and then you use that app from that homepage. That's how we address the self-service and how we empower your end users. Because if we can give them a much simplified menu option and choices around how to interact with all of the IT that you do provide them within the business, then we think you're more likely to get them to use it. Microsoft's approach seems to be much more around building a platform, Office 365, making a huge range of features available. They've just recently launched Teams. And then allowing a user to choose the right tool for the right job, because they believe that consumers are doing that out in the outside of work, so they should be able to do it inside of work. From our experience, in a business context, users are a little less risk averse. They would prefer to know which is the right tool for the job, and they would prefer to know that if they use that tool, that it's going to help them do it, and they're not going to get in trouble if they use it. And I think in the case of things like SharePoint, which can be quite complicated and daunting for users, they'll just look at that and go, that's too difficult and complicated, I'm just going to stick to what I know, and that typically is file shares and email. So we want to provide a smartphone-like user experience for people so that they can actually interact with very complicated, Office 365 software, but in a way that's really easy and straightforward. I've also talked a little bit about the evergreen piece and how we reduce cost of ownership. There is a lot happening. If you're a keen follower of SharePoint and what Microsoft are doing with SharePoint Online and SharePoint 2016, you'll know that there's significant investment coming down the road from Microsoft. We'll be tracking that investment. We'll be investing in the new SharePoint framework, in Power Apps, in Flow, and we'll be providing you with updates to Flex if you take the product, so that you don't have to worry about those complicated changes. And a number of those are going to be significant for our customers. And our plan is to stay very close to that, as you would expect as a Microsoft Gold partner. Working with risual, we are able to get insight and information prior to customers in terms of what's coming down from Microsoft. So I've talked about the features. I won't spend too much time on them because I'm going to demo those to you. So we've got an intranet, we've got next generation collaboration, and this is the end user self-service piece, and then we've got a digital workplace, a home, one place to go, which you can access from anywhere, that can provide a launch point for all of these digital assets. And this is the approach that Working and Borough Council are taking. So with that, I'm going to move on to the demonstration. I'm going to now present my desktop. I will just make sure I'm doing that. So it would be great if you can shout, people, if you can't see it, but hopefully you can now see the Flex intranet homepage.
Yes, it's just come up now, Andrew.
Great, thanks, Michael. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the intranet. You can see I'm running on Office 365. There's my quick launch bar with all of my new apps that Microsoft have been adding. And I've got now Dynamics 365 has been added. You can see that Flow and Power Apps are here. So we're running in 365. I've got a demo tenant that we've set up. And what Flex has done is we've told Flex to run the intranet app. And that app has created what you're looking at now. Now that entire process of Flex software issuing the instructions to SharePoint Online to create what you're looking at takes only about 15 to 20 minutes, but we require the SharePoint search engine to crawl the content to display what you're looking at, because we use search fundamentally in the Flex architecture to deliver content. So what you can see is the home page here. We've got your typical sort of corporate comms owned area at the top of the screen. We've got news, we've got events, we've got announcements, we've got blogs. And as I scroll down, you can see I've got some more headline news articles, my upcoming events. I've got some quick links. Most intranets require launch points into other areas. And then we have personalization occurring. So I've now got information that's relevant to me because of who I am logged into SharePoint as. So you can see here I've got a web part of My Followed People, and you can see here I've got my Action Center, which is just a quick peek into all of the workspaces, the team sites that I'm a member of that have been provisioned by Flex through self-service, and I'll show you that in a little while. But I've got a combination of personalized content and corporate comms content. Flex uses the search engine in SharePoint Online and in SharePoint 2013, because it's so much better than previous incarnations, and it gives us the ability to dynamically present content. So if you log on to the intranet in half an hour's time, and let's say a new news article has been approved and is being published, the search engine will pick that up, index it, and that news article would appear. If that was a headline news article, it would appear in this column over here, and the bottom one would automatically drop off, and there would be a new one at the top. So by using search to dynamically grab content as it's created and added into the intranet, you're always going to get a better user experience, because there's usually more information being added. And you can see we've got some other web parts on the page. Across the top, I have my global navigation. This is just completely customizable, and so is the branding and the look and the feel. This is obviously coming out of the box as a Flex demo tenant, so we've applied the Flex branding to it. But you can see here I've got a range of different departments, but this structure is something that we work with you on when we do the implementation. For each of the pages that I browse to, and if I just quickly browse to news so that you can see it, we work with you to identify which template is the most appropriate. And for each page that you see, we provide 3 standard templates. Most of our customers take those standard templates, because if we all stick to the standard built-in functionality, then we can implement what you're looking at in less than 2 months. And that also includes the collaboration piece, which I'll come on to. So here you can see we've got the newsroom, again, news articles, nice pictures, column. With our templates, we typically have a standard layout, so content either left or 2 columns, and then we have a search and refinement panel. Flex adds additional metadata properties into our content storage, so that we can make that browsing experience richer. So Flex knows who you are, what you do, and where you work, and using those tags for content, we are able to help users browse content and then refine. So if I go down to, for example, if I go to the people directory, because all good intranets require a telephone directory, but we've expanded on that. We're pulling here information out of Active Directory and or the Office 365 profile service, and we're presenting that in, again, a particular view. So again, we've got the content on the left, and you can see here that I've got the ability to filter. I can search by maybe a surname. I can type the word Flex, and I can see who I find. And I can scroll down to my users. If we had other people logged into this demo tenant and we had Skype switched on, the Jelly Bean would appear, and then we're able to browse, and I could have an instant conversation with that person. If I quickly want to see Larry's details, Larry hasn't added anything particular over and above his the information that's coming from Active Directory, so I've got his email and telephone, but I've also got the ability to, let's see if I can come up with, no. I knew there was someone in here who did something interesting, so let me just try and find all of the Johns. So you can see here that I'm able to maneuver, I can search, refine, find the person I'm looking for, and on the basis of that, start an IM conversation. We see this more as a skills and expertise search, because it's not just about a telephone directory. And again, the standard layout of being able to let people browse content if that's how they would prefer to find it, or to search for it directly through either searching on the page or searching on the site. We also have the example here of what we refer to in Flex as a hub. So a hub is a collection of content that has been put into a particular layout, which is the one that you see in front of you. We're showing this as departments for an organization, but quite a lot of our customers are not too keen to have a sort of departmental structure view visible on the intranet. The way the architecture is organized is that we can store the content in that particular way, but a lot of our customers are focusing the intranet on, you know, the functions within the organization and what the processes are that people participate in, so that there's more of a view of what's going on in the business in that context rather than through a traditional departmental structure. But nonetheless, we're pulling all of the content. So all of the content that's gone into SharePoint has been tagged as HR is now being surfaced on this particular page using our Flex template, and it's being security trimmed based on who I am logged in as. And again, you can see we've got a nice banner. We've got tabs across the top. We've got a latest news, a latest events. You can see in this particular site, we've integrated the HR Yammer group feed into the page. So If you want, we can integrate Yammer at a number of levels. We can have the all group feed or all company feed appearing on the homepage if you wanted to. We can have it as a single column, a double column, or we can use up the whole of the real estate on the screen. It's really up to you. But we can automate the creation of Yammer groups through the Flex engine. And the people creating content don't need to know anything about this particular template. All they need to do is submit a news article for the HR department, and Flex will take care of the display of the site, the pagination of the site, etc. And this is all really something that we tailor with you as we do the implementation. I also briefly want to show you what this site looks like if I make it smaller and if I make it mobile phone size. So as you can see here now, we've got a smartphone size view, and the content is now all in a single column, and the order in which it appears is determined by yourselves. So you will tell us when we lay the template out that you want the articles to appear in this order when it detects a different device. And you can see that I've also got my global navigation, which follows me around, my floating action button, as it's referred to. Now that floating action button gives me global navigation. Some of our customers, one of our customers, Servomex, who are a global manufacturer of scientific instrumentation, they are actually using the global navigation to allow users to branch off to other applications. I mentioned Salesforce and Chatter earlier. They've got Salesforce as a link from this global navigation. So it doesn't just have to be about helping maneuver and browse around the SharePoint environment, but it's there for that particular purpose, because sometimes SharePoint, as you navigate down, you sometimes get lost and you're not able to get back up. But we can also basically allow you to launch into other applications if you wanted to. You can also see that we've got documents here. So these are all of the HR published documents, and you can see that we've now got workspaces. So a workspace is, if you're familiar with the term, a SharePoint team site. And again, through the self-service creation of these workspaces, someone has created a workspace. As you can see, I've been doing a demo. This is a demo I did yesterday. So I created through self-service a team site called AS12. I tagged it as being an HR team site, and you can see that that workspace is now visible in the intranet through that particular view. We think it's really important that for certain collaboration activities, the information is really democratized. So in other words, it's available for anybody to come into the HR page, to browse the workspaces, to click on the link, and if I've selected a particular option when I created the team site, which I'll show you in a minute, then the site is visible. And not only is the site visible, but I, as another user, could literally go into the site and have a look around. So for certain types of collaboration activities, we think it's really important that everybody has access to everything, that I can browse, I can browse by department, or I can search a site. We're dealing with the way that all of your users use information, which unfortunately is completely different. So that's a quick summary of the intranet functionality. All of the content authoring is very nice and simple. We've got a whole series of pre-built templates, and that just speeds up our ability to implement intranets. We are working with Southern Water on their implementation of Flex. Within 5 weeks of starting the project with them, we were demoing to their executive committee their intranet with their content running on their Office 365 tenant, and we showed it to the chief exec running on his iPhone, and we had a series of ruggedized laptops, and we were able to pass those around as we were talking them through the solution. So it gives us the ability to really accelerate your ability to implement the intranet, and if you take it out of the box and using our templates and layouts, then we can definitely deliver to you quickly. In terms of the collaboration aspect, I talked a lot about end-user self-service and the smartphone-like experience. Well, I've now browsed to the Flex App Store. Now, it's described in the demo tenant as an app store. Some of our customers are calling it a library. The terminology that we would use to describe it is something that would resonate with your users. But the concept is just like the Apple Store or the Windows Store or Google Play, that the store has in it a series of applications or apps. Those applications are, in our context, describing business tasks. So they are written in business language that everybody in your organization would understand. So, and we've categorized them into typical departmental things like marketing, like finance, like administration, like sales, and like HR. Now you can see there are a lot of apps in this particular environment. These are the ones that we ship the product with when you purchase it. Now, what we'll do with you when we implement Flex is we'll trim this down to a manageable number when you launch, and we'll show you how to create them so that you are able to maybe launch with 5 or 6, which is typically what most of our customers have done. Our biggest customer is Computer Center, the IT services organization. They have 20,000 users, and we've launched their self-service collaboration with 6 in the store. So, you know, we start small, and then they are going to go on and release new capabilities because they've got a number of collaboration scenarios that they know about, which they want to integrate and build in this particular way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a sales proposal. So I've gone to the store. I'm presented with a form. Again, this is all completely tailored to your environment. What's on the form, you know, in the case of Sunderland City Council, as an example, there isn't a form. When you click on a particular type of team collaboration, and I think they do call it team collaboration, you aren't presented with a form to fill out or any information. All that happens is that Flex creates the team site, puts all the rules and regulations around that team site into SharePoint on behalf of the user, and then emails the user to say your site's ready. So I'm going to quickly go through this process. You can see here that we've got the ability to add governance rules, and those governance rules are set up by IT, so that every time a user creates a sales proposal, team site, it's going to have your rules built into it. If I just quickly go start, I'm conscious of time, so I'll just show you what that will look like. But I will now be presented with a form. Again, this form is completely can completely be tailored to your requirements. As I said, Sunderland don't even have a form to fill out for the user for certain things. I won't go through it now, just in the interest of time, but you can see that this form, it can be dynamic, and you can see that we're tagging the site. We're giving the site an identity. By giving it an identity and a purpose, we're able to then connect it into the intranet, and then people will find it because they're interested in things like management accountancy. They're not necessarily interested in a SharePoint team site to do with X, Y, and Z. But if we can give it an identity, then we know that it's more likely to be used by the business. We've got audiences, so these are the metadata properties. We've got locations, so if you're all over, if you have a number of different offices, then this might be useful. I mentioned the open, closed, the visibility of the team site in SharePoint in the intranet. That site I had created earlier, AS12, was open, so it had appeared in the directory, and I could go into the site and browse all of the content. If the site is set up by me as the user as closed, then that site appears in the directory, but if a user tries to go in, be requested to send me an email, and I can choose to whether I let them in or not. And obviously there are certain situations where a team site is only for 3 or 4 people. Let's say the HR department are updating some policies and procedures, then it's appropriate that the site is private, in which case if I'm not in the HR department, when I browse the directory structure in the intranet, the site will not appear unless I am a member of that site. So I go through the process of filling out this form, I review the settings, and I click go. And then what our Flex automation engine does is it takes that sales proposal site workflow, which is sitting in the Flex server product, and it issues a series of instructions to SharePoint Online to go and create me a SharePoint team site, to set it up with these document libraries, with these calendars, with these lists. You can do nice and complicated things and say, well, there's a storage quota of 1 gig for this particular site, and it's going to last for 1 month. But then you might want to add some of your own governance rules that says, well, actually, when the site has been finished with, we're going to automatically archive it. We're going to move the site from the sales area into the archive area of SharePoint Online, and we're going to switch on records management so that we can audit anybody who accesses that information. So that's really how we deliver on that. So if I then go to my home page, not my store, I'm now at my smartphone home, my digital workplace. So what you're going to see now is where all of those instances of those apps are stored. And you can see here that I've got a nice home page. You can see that I've grouped my apps. So I've got sales proposals as a group, and I've got 2 sales proposals in there at the moment, both for Acme. We're very active with Acme at the moment. I've got my home area, and just like I do on my smartphone, I can come in and I can delete these pinned apps. So it says uninstall, as you can see from the hover over. The content is not being deleted, it's just I'm removing it from my view of the information because I'm no longer involved in the ed demo site. I can move sites around, so if I want to take this, if I want to, oh, I've clicked on that. Sorry about that. If I wanted to move something around, if I wanted to take that and put it down here, then I can do that if I put it into edit mode. Let's just do that now, so I can move things around like that, and it's saved it. So I've got this ability to do exactly like my smartphone. But if I wanted to see the output of a sales of the Flex team site, let's go into a site and have a quick look. So if I then go into my IT refresh site, so bear in mind the end user has self-serviced this site. They've created the site using the form and the App Store analogy. Flex has run the instructions to create the site in SharePoint Online, because I'm now back in my Office 365 tenant. And you can see here this site doesn't look anything like SharePoint. It's a very, very simple to use interface. I can come into the site and I can click share and I can share it with my colleagues. I've got a document library called important documents. I've got a document library called hardware specs. I've got a calendar. So you can see that we've got a much, much simpler user experience, and that means that we don't have to train end users on how to use this. And this is modeled on some of the cloud services like Box and Dropbox. So it's really easy for people to come in here, choose some files to upload. Upload those files, and then I can be sharing and collaborating with my colleagues. And the benefit is that we're not doing this in file shares. I'm able to share the link to this particular team site with my colleagues. If you enable external access, then I can share this with external parties, and that is really important because you cannot, there's definitely no chance of you training people outside of your business, but I'm sure that you'd agree that people inside the business would definitely have the ability to use something as simple as this. And the real powerful feature here is that I can actually manage and change the site myself. So not only is the site automatically created for me, not only does the site have all of the IT governance rules built into it, so even as Andrew in the sales department, I don't need to know that IT are controlling the site from behind the scenes, but that's exactly what's happening. I can also come in here and I can tailor it. I can add a document library. I can add a discussion group. I can create a contacts list. I can create a task list, a links list. So I've got access to all of those standard SharePoint features in a way that means I don't have to go to IT and say, can you just add me a new document library to that particular team site? If you think that this site is useful for your sort of mass adoption areas, then we would agree with you. It's not the only template that ICS produce when Flex is run. We have a number of more comprehensive team site templates, and they are more traditional in their layout. They look like SharePoint, but that would be for something like an IT project where most of the people who are familiar with the setup. And again, everything is mobile enabled, so I've got my single column view of information and I'm able to access it from any device. And my floating action button is there, and if I click on it and go to my intranet, you can see that I can browse straight back to my home page. So I was going to leave the demonstration there. I hope you found that quick tour of Flex useful. As I said, we have an intranet out of the box ready to go, and then we connect it up using Flex with that self-service smartphone experience for users to collaborate. Team sites and all of the SharePoint assets are fantastic places for teams and people in your organization to share and work on information. But most users are put off by the standard SharePoint user interface. And most IT departments really don't have the time to provide individual users in the business with a team site in a time frame that would support that user. A Flex site that I did the demonstration yesterday. I ran through the workflow, I created the site, and then I started populating it and I shared it with the person I was talking to. The whole process took less than 8 minutes because we actually timed it. The customer was very interested in that. So we can give your end users the ability to use SharePoint team sites to collaborate with their colleagues in 8 minutes. And you've got complete control over that template because you know how long it's going to last, how much storage you're using for it, and you can also then go beyond that and add your own governance rules. We think that's a really powerful mechanism, and we think that's a much better tool for your users to be using than them having to email stuff to themselves at home or to quickly go onto the internet, go to their Dropbox account, upload one of your documents into their Dropbox and then share that with some third party, because that's just a bit easier than waiting for IT, because let's face it, IT have got plenty of stuff to do. So that's really how we do it. We have a full admin console as well, so that for the IT teams, you can go into the back end, you can mass update sites that have already been out there, you can apply metadata and properties to sites after they've been created through automation. So if you choose to update your information management policy, and there are 1,000 sites already in existence, you know, that is a thankless task to go around them. One of our customers gave us an example where it took them 70 man days of expensive development type of resources to do that. We showed them with Flex how we could do that in 20 minutes. So we've got the ability to run admin tasks using that automation engine. So it's very, very powerful. I'm going to go back to the slides now and stop presenting. Michael, if you could bring up the PowerPoint. While we're waiting for that to happen, are there any questions? So one of the questions that we usually get asked by our customers is there the ability to tailor and configure the Flex product? Thanks, Michael. Yes, and the answer is absolutely. We provide through your Flex licensing agreement a software development kit. So if you do have Microsoft in-house skills within the IT department, thanks, Michael, then the answer to the question is yes, you can absolutely extend and tailor Flex. One of our customers, Computer Center, who I mentioned before, have got a very complicated business process. It's only used by about, I would say, less than 5% of their entire user base, so it's about 400 or 500 people. But it's a very complicated business process. It's very challenging, but it's one of their critical business processes. Now, they've used Flex and SharePoint to host that. So that means that the Computer Center team can extend it, and they've got lots of complicated things on that SharePoint site. So they've got a custom security model, they've got custom workflow, they've got custom content types. All of the technical things you do in SharePoint have all been built into a Flex template. So every time they run that particular process, and they only do it maybe 30 or 40 times a year. So another customer was talking to us about an example where they have to be assessed by the Care Quality Commission, and they go through that process once every couple of years. But it's a very important process. So they've built a template that hosts all of the information, and that's where people collaborate on the process of collating information. So yes, you can extend it, and we will support you on that. As part of your Flex Evergreen license agreement, you are able to take advantage of Flex. If you make changes to Flex through the SDK and you follow the guidance that we provide, then we will support that implementation, whether that was something that we did, whether it's something that risual did, or whether it's something that you did yourself. So that architecture means that while we're also doing updates to our server product, when we give you an update as part of the licensing agreement, it's not going to affect any of the customizations and tailoring that you've done on SharePoint Online. The other question that we quite often get asked is, do I have access to all of my Office 365 capabilities? Absolutely. As you saw me earlier showing, the quick launch bar is available for you to access. Once Flex has created the SharePoint intranet, the Flex server is no longer acting as a location for your users to access. They browse directly to Office 365 because SharePoint, effectively Flex is finished. It's injected into SharePoint, your intranet settings, and then the users just log on to 365 in the normal way, and they take advantage of the fact that we've pre-built it for them. So you only are actually logged onto the Flex server at the point that you are in the store or in the Flex in the home page that I was showing you earlier. Okay, we've pretty much come to the end of the session. Got some slides here that talk a little bit about next steps. We would be more than happy to do something that is private and just for your organization. So if you've got a particular series of questions that you'd like to ask, but it would be better done in a context where you've got some of your colleagues with you, then we're very happy to do a private session for you, run through the product like we have done, but really focus in on the area that you're most interested in. What we find is most customers have a business priority. A lot of customers, as I mentioned, are talking about intranets, but again, Computer Center started their Flex implementation using the self-service collaboration aspects. So it's really a question of understanding what's a priority from your perspective. In the case of Southern Water, they actually did both at the same time because they could see value in getting self-service out there and people collaborating more effectively around documents and information, as well as the need for corporate comms to hit a deadline back in the summer when they went to the business to say they were going to have a new intranet ready by then. So I think from our perspective, it's about tailoring what you've seen today, making it a bit more relevant to your organization, to the way you work, things that you want to do. We can obviously also provide you with a quote. There is also the ability for us to do some proof of concepts or production ready pilots of Flex. And if you have any software assurance benefits or Office 365 adoption funding, those are benefits available through your Microsoft license agreement, then we can use some of those funds to work with you to really tailor the solution, apply your branding, your look and feel, and make it look like your intranet, so that when you're showing it to your colleagues and your stakeholders, they can see how the system's going to look with their information in it. Okay. I don't think we're going to get any questions. So, Michael, if you're happy, I'm happy to bring the session to a close.
Yep, okay. Well, if anyone thinks of any other questions, then please get in touch with us, and we'll happily answer those offline. As we mentioned at the beginning, the recording will be published out onto YouTube, and we can send links out sort of after the webcast. So thank you very much for your attendance, and we'll hang around for a few more minutes in case we think of any more questions. But thank you very much.
We have a question coming in actually, Michael.
Okay.
So Paul is sending us a message, so we'll just wait for that to appear. Okay, thanks, Paul. Glad you enjoyed the session. So yes, happy to answer any questions. So if you just drop us an email, we can do that. Okay.